somewhere between 35 and 50% of all comic shops in America went out of business. We had to close our store for almost 3 months. It's gonna end. Digital comics are gonna bury the medium. Publishers put comic shops out of business.
Wow. Word of advice you would give to anyone that has thoughts of opening a comic book store?
Don't do it.
I'm standing in front of Fantastic Worlds Comics, the best comic book store in Scottsdale, Arizona. It has a huge selection of comic books that would appeal to any collector. We're gonna take you inside, show you the store, do a bit of shopping, talk to the man who runs it himself, Bill Ponsetti, who has a positive reputation that spans across the entire state, possibly the whole country. We're gonna ask him what it took to get to that position. Bill runs the Scottsdale comic convention named Old Man Con that is only a few days away by the time you're seeing this video. Despite being so busy, he managed to make the time to do this video with us. He had to take a business call by the time we strolled in, so we got a head start on building a stack of comics.
All right.
Yo,
having a good old time, man.
we're starting our little shopping spree here. We're gonna get a few books.
I even brought in a couple of things I thought maybe your fans, your viewers would enjoy to see. It's not something we often do. So this is an original page of comic book art done by Sal Buscema. Came out in 1973. But these are the original pencils and inks, and it's hand lettered. And this is the comic book in which it was printed.
So cool. Can we open up and see the page?
Absolutely. So there's the published page, uncolored, right?
Dude, page number 7.
As compared to the original page here. And this is actually
Side
the
by
first
side.
appearance of the Serpent Squad, is what they call it. And these are all the snake-themed villains in the Marvel Universe
Dude.
at the time. Yeah, and so this one's kind of fun too. This is a page from The Invaders, number 31. For The Invaders is a reimagining of the Golden Age Captain America, the Golden Age Human Torch and Submariner, battling the Germans in World War II. And so to make matters tough, the Germans created a Frankenstein of their very own, battling our heroes. And then here's the original art. And they're always stamped on the back. This is from 1978, copyright Marvel Comics Group. And there it is. And all that's hand lettered. You know, now all these things are done for comic books, but a lot of them created on a computer.
It's crazy that this exact piece of paper at one point in time was blank. It was just a blank piece of paper. He sat down, created this, and it turned out to be that.
Yeah, that's true.
It's insane.
Yep.
Definitely some super rare stuff. And this is a great title. That's The Invaders. That's a Bronze Age title that everyone knows. Thank you for showing us that. That is awesome.
Sure. Oh, I'm Bill Ponsetti, by the way, and this is
The
Fantastic
legend.
Worlds Comic. You guys have fun and enjoy the shop.
We're gonna have a little bit of a dig through the bins and probably meet back up with you and do like a little bit of interview style, kind of sit down.
Sure.
You got
I
the
just thought you
original
guys would
art.
think that was cool.
Yeah, thanks again.
Yeah.
So we got these two books right here. Avengers number 7, and Amazing Spider-Man number 67. We're gonna continue a little bit of shopping, maybe get into, look at the other wall real quick too. I'm gonna take a look at this guy. Tales to Astonish number 41. Look at that cover. I'm gonna get this. He has it at a 4.5. That's one thing that's great about this store. Every single one of these wall books have a nice little grade, or they tell you what kind of defect is happening. I'm also gonna grab this. This is so cool. Golden Age Plastic Man for $175. Look at that cover. That is so cool. All right, let's move on. I got a couple more books that's all down here. Also, if you happen to stop into this store, ask for assistance on taking stuff down the wall. Up here, you have some pre-hero stuff, and this is hard to find in decent grades. I've been here and done a few types of shopping, so if that scared anyone, don't worry, it's okay. Journey into Mystery 68, Sprag. Let's also look at this Journey into Mystery up here. That cover is super sick. These 10-cent Batmans are so cool. Okay, so we're at $820 on this tiny little stack right here. Already kind of going a little bit crazy. Just don't find stuff like that in that kind of condition every day. All right, so what's up with these books over here? It's someone else's stack. It has to be. Are they up for grabs? I like these. Bill, there's a tiny stack of books over here. Is that someone else's stack?
Oh, I just need to file them.
Yeah, I won't let you file them. I'm gonna grab a couple of them.
Okay.
All right, let's start a little dig-a-thon. Starting in the S miscellaneous here. That's a good one. Artwork by Neil Adams on that one. Spectre number 2. Human Torch versus Silver Surfer. I think we're gonna take that one for $35. That's a cool one. That's a cool cover. I believe that's the first appearance of Dormammu. Some Samara. It's a good book for 60 bucks. 30 bucks is pretty good on that too. 12 bucks for Silver Ages. A killer deal. I think we're done on the Samara though. It's a good key from Iron Man 2, the movie, Whiplash. Just the writing on the cover, man. That's super cool. That's such a great cover. Yeah, let's get that one. I believe that's Origin of Loki. Every single one of these bins has Silver Age. It's rare. You will only see Silver Age in stores, like they have one box, or it's up on their wall, and it's never in their bins.
You know, we have almost 24,000 comics right here on the floor.
24,000 in the bins.
About 85 long boxes.
Man. And it's all good stuff. That's the fun part.
If it's not good stuff, it's fun stuff.
Exactly. I think that's first appearance of the U-Leak, or U-Leak, just U-Leak. Let's get that one. That's also so cool. Galactus on there. Wow, that's a sick one too. That looks really good for 20 bucks. Oh, that's such a good one. That's Battle of Silver Surfer versus Thor. Number 12 looks pretty good. That's a cool cover too.
Oh, yeah.
I'm goddamn Mr. Terrific.
We finished our dig, gathered up our books, and got together with Bill to finally ask the good, the bad, the ugly that goes into owning a comic book business.
How did you get into comic books? When did you start?
Ooh, yeah, that was a very long time ago. As best as I can recollect,
Yeah.
because I was very young. My mom, I think, read comic books when she was a little girl in the 1940s, and she liked it. My dad was military, and we were living in Japan in the early to mid 1960s. There was a character over there called Q-chan.
Care, a bucking a care.
And he was sort of Japan's version of Casper the Friendly Ghost. She bought me this Q-chan comic book, and I thought it was great. I mean, I read that thing a million times, and then we got transferred back to the States when Dad went to Vietnam. So we went back to New Orleans, which was our family home. And so she picked me up, you know, an early Avengers. And I just thought Thor was like the coolest thing in the whole wide world, even though I was like probably on a rudimentary reading level. And, you know, Mom started buying my brother and I comics. And eventually she started working on base at what they call the Base Exchange. It was like a department store. But it had an annex, which was like the Air Force equivalent of a 7-Eleven. And so they got comic books in. And she would get first crack at them. And she knew what I liked, she knew what my brother liked.
Wow.
You know, I was big into Avengers and Thor. He was big into Spider-Man and DC War.
Wow.
And then he and I started going to 7-Eleven, getting them ourselves. We had allowance money. We bought Conan #1 off the stands, and we thought it was like the greatest comic book we had ever read.
one of my favorites. I had a dog named Conan. I love Conan the Barbarian. It's so cool.
Early 70s, we bought Conan 1, and then Howard the Duck #1 came out. And there was
That's
this
great,
rumor
yeah.
going around that it was scarce. So we bought every copy we could find of Howard the Duck #1. We started speculating. We had bunches of Conan 1 through 20, and we had a bunch of Howard the Duck #1s and other books we were buying that we thought were cool. And we went to Pheonix Comic Con in, I think, 1976. So that was the first time I ever set up as a dealer. And then got back into it, big time in the 80s, and then opened my first comic book store in 1992 in New Orleans.
How did you start a comic book store? When did you know when to...
There was some local comic shops in town in New Orleans that I frequented. I always felt like they could be better. There was cool things about them.
Yeah.
There was one out in Metairie on Airline Highway called Family Books and Comics, and she would get in like one big book every so often. So the very first big book that I ever bought was a Fantastic Four #1. And it was just stunning. Okay.
Oh my God, yeah.
In those days we had good, fine, and mint. Okay, there wasn't the 10-point grading system that we had.
It was good or it didn't.
But it was perfect. It was like newsstand fresh.
Yeah.
She wanted $600 for it. This is in 1983. I bought it, but I had to make 3 time payments of $200 a month. And I was thrilled. And then a couple months later, another comic book shop that I frequented, BSI Comics in Metairie, Louisiana, called and said, hey, Bill, I've got a Journey Mystery 83, and he knew I was a Thor guy. And it was in perfect condition as well. I mean, it was like newsstand fresh. $350. By that time I had the whole 350.
Yeah, you were feeling good that day.
I was feeling good. But I always felt like there was a better way. Why couldn't you have a shop that was just rich with Golden Age and Silver Age and deep backstock?
Where's the stuff that people were looking for? You brought it. Yeah.
Yeah. I was doing shows, all through the 80s and stuff like that, and early 90s. And Matt had come up, and he was young like you, and he was buying stuff for me, and he had a love for Golden Age, and so we hit it off. I was in my mid to late 20s, he was in his late teens, and I was like, man, I had to open my own shop. He's like, yeah, you should do that. He kind of encouraged me. And so I rented a place down in uptown New Orleans. It used to be a tile shop, but it was glorious. It was huge and had these high ceilings, so we could load the walls up with back issues.
Yeah.
The glass cases, you'd walk into that shop, dude, and there'd be an Action 1 or Detective 27 in the glass case.
Dude.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
And the name of my shop in New Orleans was More Fun Comics, named after the DC title of that era. My shop is still there in New Orleans to the guy that I sold it to. So that thing's been open for 33 years.
What's the name of it today?
Still More Fun Comics,
Awesome.
sitting right there on the corner of Oak and Dublin.
I gotta
in New
see
Orleans.
it.
My buddy DC owns that store. And the young kid that worked for me that I hired there, well, first he was just, he worked backstock, pulling and filing comics. And eventually became the manager of the shop working for me was Matt Nelson, who is now the president of CGC, the comic book grading company.
Wow. The president of CGC getting his start with you. That is so cool.
Yeah, if you go to his bio on CGC, you'll see that little story.
That's awesome. So for anyone at home watching, seeing this video now, they could be romanticizing opening a comic book store.
Yeah.
What is a word of advice you would give to anyone that has thoughts of opening a comic book store?
Don't do it. I don't want any more competition.
Said very wisely.
But, if that's your passion, that's what you want to do, then go for it, but it's not as romantic as you might think. It's owning a business. It's a grind. It's a small business. There's months when you're like, man, sheesh, it's going to be tight. And then you have to find supplemental sources. And a lot of folks use Instagram live sales or sell on eBay. I personally, for the most part, though, we supplement it through going to shows. Now that I've gotten old, I only mostly do stuff here in California.
Yeah.
But I used to drive all over the country. And if you're a young person and you're like, you know what, I can do it. I can drive from here to New York City and do New York City Comic Con. Then go for it. But make sure that you're willing to invest 60, 70 hours a week and have money, because you realize, of course, for those first few months, nobody's going to know who you are, what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to pay the bills. Landlord's going to want it. The light bill's going to come in. The new comic's going to come in every week, and you've got to pay that invoice. So, it costs more to own and operate a shop than people think it does. But if you love it, then it's a labor of love.
Very well said. I think a lot of people going into it will severely underestimate how much money they're going to spend putting in just overhead on getting the inventory, the showcases, the slat walls, all of it. We're talking about the romanticization of owning a comic book store and how much of a risk it could be going into it unprepared. I just want to know, when you had jumped that leap of faith and taken all of the risk, when did you know it was possible?
Oh man, it was dicey. We were undercapitalized and understaffed, and I went through a lot of knucklehead employees. The problem is hiring somebody that, is passionate about this stuff too. It sounds like a great thing, but you're better off hiring an accountant or somebody who's dispassionate about it, or you get lucky and hire an accountant who's also passionate about it and honest, like I did in this store. I hired a great guy 6 years ago after I'd, been through some folks here too that didn't quite work out. And Ishtvan's been with me ever since, and I couldn't have a better shop manager than him. But we were undercapitalized, we were understaffed, we had the wrong people. And there were times when we weren't sure we weren't going to be able to pull this thing off. What saved us, was the collections that started coming in. And I wouldn't let it out the door. If I had to beg, borrow, or take out loans, rob Peter to pay Paul, or I'm not going to pay the rent this month because I got to get this collection. And I was building up this amazing inventory. My competitors couldn't keep up. In the New Orleans collecting base, they could get their new comics anywhere. They wanted to be able to get their new comics in the same place they were buying their back issues. And so those places went out of business. And all of a sudden now I was kingpin. I owned the New Orleans market.
That was my next question too. How many stores have you seen come and go, open and go out of business, close just because of lack of business?
During the mid-90s, everybody wanted a comic shop because there was just so much money to be made on new comics and on back issues, but particularly on new comics. So in 1997, there was an implosion, and I would say somewhere between 35 and 50% of all comic shops in America went out of business.
Wow.
The market got flooded with die-cut covers and, hologram and foil, and, and nobody could keep up with it. These young folks that opened comic book stores, were buying cases of that stuff and specking on Valiants and on Turok #1s.
And they were printing a lot of them.
They were printing the dickens out of them.
Yeah.
In the old days, what you didn't sell, you ripped the top half off and sent it back and you got your dime or your 15 or 12 cents back. Now you buy it, you own it.
Yeah.
So if you order 250 and sell 50, you're stuck with 200 books you can't sell. The publishers put comic shops out of business.
Wow.
And so they stopped it.
What would you say one thing that you do better than other comic book store owners?
Grade. Definitely grade. And treat customers well. There was a guy who would come into the shop with a stack of Silver Age books, and you would have loved to have bought them too. Daredevil, like 1 through 6, and a couple of other books. And I show the customer what I think they're worth.
Yeah.
And then here's what I'll pay. Whereas a lot of folks, they bring in and, they got stuff, and the guy, I'll give you $50. Out the door you go, and then they're high-fiving how well they ripped somebody off.
Dude, yeah.
And that's not how I'm wired, okay? I'm just not wired that way. So he came in, and I made him an offer, and he was highly insulted by the offer. Oh, how dare you? This is ridiculous. I can't believe it. I'm like, well, hey, look, it's not nothing personal. This is just what I think I need to pay so that I've got room to make money.
Right.
But feel free to take them to all my competitors. I think you might come back. About a week passed, he walked back in. He was like, boy, were you right.
Yeah.
Those guys sure lowballed me. I'll take it. Because of that, we built a relationship. Every couple months, he'd bring in another stack of Silver Age, another stack of Bronze Age, and so forth and so on. And this went on for 2 or 3 years until I finally ended up getting all of his stuff.
You never know who to treat properly. That's why you should treat everyone properly. I love hearing stuff like that. And you do grade super fairly. I've been to countless stores where I buy a book, I'm like, oh wow, that looks really good. I take it out of the bag, there's something written on the back cover and a piece missing out of a page, a whole page missing. Yeah. You're one of the better graders, if not the best graders in the entire valley. So I'll give you that. What would you say the most expensive comic book you have ever owned or sold?
Well, the Action one would be the one a picture here of when this lady brought in Action Comics 1 through 23, and that's me, and that's Matt Nelson, and that's the Action one. And I would say it was roughly around April or May of 1996.
Oh my gosh.
Is what I'm thinking it was.
That looks so incredibly nice. Oh my God.
Yeah, that was it's one of those things where every comic shop owner dreams one day some old lady with an Action 1's going to come in.
Dude.
And sure enough, she did.
Oh my God.
And they belonged to her husband. His mom had passed away, and they were clearing out the house and went down in the basement, and all of his childhood comic books were still down there in the basement, and it included that run of Action 1 through 23 minus number 16. That's by far the biggest dog of them all. The most I ever paid was $55,000 for a Detective 27.
First appearance of Batman, Detective Comics 27. When was that, too? Wow.
Well, that was at least 20 years ago.
Yeah, that seems so cheap for that book. Would you say that was the best collection or most expensive collection you've ever bought into?
No. There was a big collection that we brought to market. He knew a guy in New Orleans that knew a guy that had a big collection of Golden Age. Took a few partners, a number of us, to pool our resources to buy the collection because it was way more than one of us could handle.
That ridiculous.
And it had 2,400 Golden Age comics in it.
Wow.
Almost complete runs of many, many titles. Every fiction house, most of the Timelies, most of the DCs, MLJs, all that stuff. And that was,
That's insane.
mid to high six figures. And then you think about that's in the 90s, mid to high six figures.
That's a lot
That's
of money
millions
today.
now.
Yeah, that's a lot of money today.
We call it the More Fun Collection. You'll see them floating around every once in a while on eBay. They have little gray certificates in there.
All right,
And my signature's on it and a little story about them.
I got to get me one of those. So you've been from 1976 hunting and looking for the best books. How have you seen the market fluctuate over the years, and how is it today?
Yeah. The internet changed things. Back when Matt and I were running the shop in New Orleans, we were getting these great Golden Age collections come in, and all-time Silver Age collections were just pouring in. And we were doing a lot of shows. I mean, we had celebrities that would fly in to my shop who knew us from the San Diego Comic Con. But the way we would sell was through this newspaper called the Comic Book Buyer's Guide. We would take a double, quadruple, sextuple page ads, of all these books that we had gotten in collections. The market was really strong. They would pay extra to have it FedEx to their house, so they got it a day early. I can remember CBG, the Comic Buyer's Guide, started doing that. There was a friend of mine, who we're still friends to this day, named Rob, and he had come into a high-grade Timely collection. And he ran these ads at 5 times guide. And I was like, what is he, out of his mind? How's he going to get 5 times, top guide for these books? He sold them all.
Wow.
So that kind of reset the market on Timelies. And Bob Overstreet, who published the Price Guides, a buddy of mine, he could never keep up. The Timely growth was outstripping his ability to print an annual guide and keep up with it. But what I observed is that between 10 and 20% per year from 1976 until COVID, the market grew. So if you had bought a $10,000 comic book or a $5,000 comic book in, say, 1994 and sat on it and then sold it during COVID, you could probably pay off your mortgage. Let's just get rid of COVID because those are artificial.
Yeah.
But sustainable growth, 2024 was 19% better for us than 2023. And we're on track for 2025 to be 25% better than 2024. So the market is back
awesome.
to where it ought to be.
Everyone who's ever collected anything, not just comic books, has stories to tell about 2020 and the boom of all collectibles.
Yep.
People that have stories of them buying stuff at that time have nightmares to tell. So I want to ask you,
I think that's the truth.
what was your best moment in 2020 and what was your worst moment in 2020?
Well, the worst moment was, that they locked down the city, the country.
Yeah.
And we had to close our store for almost 3 months.
Wow.
So you have to furlough on your employees, you've got no revenue coming in.
Yeah.
The landlord, sort of abated the rent for a period of time. And they wanted you to pay it once, the restrictions had been lifted up. So that was the worst time. The best time is that, you almost felt guilty about it, that people were willing to pay these exorbitant prices for books that had, meteorically raised. As you know, you can look on GPA and see, it's a website that tracks all CGC graded comics that sell publicly.
GP Analysis, it's a good website. Yeah, I recommend it.
People were paying $30,000 plus for 4.5 X-Men ones. And I know guys that bought those and they were buried in them. And there's a guy that's been coming to our show the last few years with a briefcase full of COVID books. They're all great books, but he paid, so much money, he'll never break out of them.
No. And
He's just going to have to take a loss and move on. We didn't invest in boredom economics. And that's what I call it. People were so bored from sitting in their houses. They were locked down for all this time. You couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
You couldn't take your family trips. Nobody was going skiing. No one was going to Disneyland. They weren't doing anything. They had pent-up frustration. But they could buy online. After things normalized, those artificially high prices burst and it came crashing down.
I seriously believe in the comic book market. I like to put it in the perspective of from the 90s. everyone loved Pokemon. Pokemon came out in the 90s, and that's why you're seeing Pokemon blow up right now. In the 2000s, 2010s, the biggest superhero boom of all time with the Avengers movies and the MCU. Now those are becoming nostalgic. People that were 15 in 2010 are now having kids and getting their kids into what they loved as a kid. You're going to see comic books survive, and I genuinely believe that.
Yeah, I agree. And the fact that you're living testimony to that, as you've heard, and your listeners and viewers have heard, I've been doing this a long time. And I've been hearing the doomsayers and the bell ringers, it's going to end, digital comics are going to bury the medium. And as you said, no, man, you can hold it in your hand.
Yeah.
There's some intrinsic value to having something tactile that you can hold in your hand and enjoy. Get a comic book, open it up, read it, smell it, thumb it up. It's got some age, it's got history. You're a caretaker of it, right? I've noticed, not just your generation, but the generation behind you, their moms are bringing, soccer moms come in here with their kids, and they're sick and tired of those kids sitting in front of video games all day long.
Right.
And they want them reading. And so they bring them in and they buy comic books and they like it. The next thing you know, they're buying back issues. And that's a whole 2 more generations.
So crazy.
For the hobby, which speaks well to it as, having a long life.
What would you say the best and worst part of owning a comic book store is?
Well, the best part is twofold, right? You got to love the stuff. And I've known comic shop owners who got into it strictly as an investment, and then it becomes work and it stresses them out. The best part is meeting the people who share a common interest. The best friends I've ever made in my entire life, my longest tenured friends, like Matt Nelson, are people that I met through this hobby. The worst part is it's like you can't, do your own stash.
Yeah,
and
you can't get high on your own supply.
You can't get high on your own supply.
Yeah.
So there's been times, where my collection got big, and then I realized that I was taking away from the business. So now I become very transitive, and if there's a collection comes in and there's a book that I'm just, man, that thing's so freaking cool, I gotta keep it.
Yeah.
I'll take it home for 6 months or a year, but ultimately it's going to come back into the shop. So that's the hard part, is being able to distance yourself from not wanting to keep everything.
To separate the collector from the businessman. A lot of people, they have their feelings involved, and their collector is talking while they're trying to do business. They'll price things way too high because they want to keep it.
Yeah.
It's like, if you wanted to keep it, don't even price it, right? Yeah. So I think that concludes the interview portion. I have my stack of books that we
you
shopped.
want to make a deal?
Yeah, let's make a little deal
Do
here.
the Monty Hall thing. All right, so let's see what you got here. Looks
Yeah.
like you pulled some off the wall.
Those are the wall books, yes.
Oh, nice little Atlas horror there, Journey
so
to
good.
Mystery. I just was putting this out today, and you're like, don't bother filing it. I'm going to buy these two.
Yeah.
Right, and there they are. ASMs, they're like currency.
Yeah.
Super cool. Remember him earlier, the Cobra? We saw him in the original art in the Serpent Squad. I'm glad to see you get DC, because I love DC. I'm a big Batman guy, big Green Lantern and Flash.
I'm buying just as much DC as Marvel, which is it's an insane thing. I've always been a Marvel fan.
Colors they're different than Marvel covers, but they're fun.
And when we were having that conversation, we were talking about what you separate yourself from other competitors, and I just want to show it again on camera. On each of these books, he writes a grade and tells you exactly what's wrong with it, if there is anything wrong with it. You're getting exactly what you're paying for here at Fantastic Worlds Comics in Scottsdale, Arizona. One of the best stores, if not the best stores in Arizona, period. So I think the grand total, when I had calculated it all, was $25.49.
Okay, where was your head at?
My head is at $22, so $350 discount.
Well, these folks give me a lot of business. Don't assume you're going to get the same kind of deal he does, unless you spend as much as he does.
Yeah.
Deal.
22 for this.
You got it.
Love to see it. So that's 24. I'm gonna just take 2 away and hand you the 22.
22 it is. We have a deal, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations, Max.
Yes, thank you, Bill. And anyone, again, come check out the store. Get some crazy books like these. Have a good conversation with this guy. He's a nice guy. And come to Old Man Con.
Yeah, do that.
November 23rd, Sunday. It's coming up. It should be very, very soon if you're seeing this video early. The best comic book show in Arizona.
By far.
Best comic book show by far.
Not even close.
Yeah.
There'll be more back issues there than many of you have ever seen in your life.
Awesome stuff. All right, let's get out of your hair.
Thanks,
we're
guys.
a little bit past closing time. Bill is generous enough to let us film this video.
All the books we bought today will be for sale on our Whatnot show set for Saturday the 29th of this month, and this is going to be our buyer's giveaway. Amazing Spider-Man 129, the first appearance of the Punisher, signed by the writer Jerry Conway. And if you know what comic book store we should go to next for the series, leave a comment below. Check out all my socials linked in the description, leave a like, and thanks for watching.
It's a little bit much. The V for Vendetta.
Beneath this mask, there is more than flesh, Mr. Creedy.
Dude, you're
Beneath
creeping
this
me out.
mask, there's an idea. And ideas are bulletproof.
I have not. I totally missed me, but I appreciate the performance.
Right, Rich,